welcome to our show, Film Talk with AJ Dean. I'm AJ Dean, your host, and oh my gosh, tonight is a dream come true. I have in the building one of the best stunt people and actresses in the entertainment industry. We have Elizabeth Davidovich, also known by as Busy, and she is absolutely wonderful. Let's give her a super, super special warm welcome. Hello, Elizabeth. How are you? Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Um, I'm doing very well, thank you. I am on East Coast time, so if I seem a little bit sleepy, a little bit tired, that's why. That's my
Oh,
excuse.
okay, wonderful. Well, we'll try to wrap it up and not be too long so we can respect your time. And again, I want to thank you so much for being here. And also, I want to give a special shout out and thank you to Evette Vargas from New Hollywood. I want to say thank you, Evette, for introducing us to Elizabeth Davidovich. She is amazing. And isn't that right, Elizabeth?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I appreciate that, and yes, thank you, Yvette. I've it's just been such an amazing group of people to connect with, and AJ is just one of them. So I'm very, very grateful.
Thank you so much. Well, you are such a class act. Can I say that to start the show? And you are so important and you've had an incredible career. I want to share with everybody how wonderful all the things that you have done. You've done stunts, we're going to talk about that. And you've had prosthetics and makeup, especially like in The Walking Dead, which is on now, the poster here. And you've got a lot of wonderful stories, as well as we've got the poster, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. So please take it away, Busy, and tell us some stories about these great, great film productions.
Well, I can tell you that I did stunts for about 5 years in the independent film community. So basically, doing stunts for free, just for the love of it. As soon as I discovered the combination of, because I was a professional athlete my entire life, I was a competitive gymnast. And as soon as I got to Atlanta and I started getting involved in the performing community in general, almost immediately I found myself involved in independent film. And it wasn't long before I think I was actually holding a boom mic at one point, and the director was like, I just need somebody to jump over this car. And I was like, I can jump over the car. And so I just naturally started understanding that stunt work was more than just getting hit by cars and falling downstairs. It is the professional athlete on set. And so I remember having this aha moment of, oh my gosh, all of my skills that I've acquired through gymnastics. And I did other sports, but I always came back to gymnastics. And as just a natural storyteller and always having visions of maybe growing up and doing music videos one day, because I was obsessed with Janet Jackson and Rhythm Nation and all of these amazing visual things. So once I started getting involved in independent film and realized that that was my value, that I was the professional athlete on set, I had this aha moment and I was like, huh, maybe stunts is something I should do. And almost immediately, those opportunities started presenting themselves. And so when Walking Dead showed up in 2010, I was one of three girls in Atlanta that had a SAG card, and I got picked up immediately. I was in not the first episode, but the second episode. I was the first stunt girl on the show to get killed. I was the first stunt girl that Andy Lincoln ever had to kill. And so we had this crazy moment where the first time that he jumps out of the tank and sees this just horde of zombies for the first time, I'm the first girl that he shoots in the face. And so on the very first take, he came, and we all know that when you're shooting a gun on set, you point offline. You never point directly there's no need. So he accidentally pointed the gun right in my face. And that was one of my first experiences actually having, and of course it's a blank, it only had a quarter load, but I remember tasting the gunpowder. It was at that close range. So people give me credit for this amazing reaction. I'm like, that was not acting. I was genuinely shot in the face, natural reaction. And of course, after the scene cut, he runs to me and he was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I know I'm not supposed to do that." It was just so real. And so that was like my first day on Walking Dead. It was it, epic is really the only word that I can think of. And so after that, I was like, okay, Stunts is this is going to be interesting. It's way more than what I expected, and I very quickly learned that you develop strong relationships with every single department. So sitting in the makeup chair and having those amazing prosthetics put on, it's it's such a process, and it was so intense that the first time I was ever dressed as a walker, and the first time I went to the bathroom, I actually, when I looked in the mirror, I scared myself because I was so not used to seeing something that detailed, that real. I mean, it was the makeup on that show. I mean, I don't need to tell the fans, absolutely top notch, best in the business. So having an opportunity to start my career with just some of the most talented people in the industry really set my standards high. And so every project that I've worked on since, I have these very, very high standards, very, very high expectations. And I bring that to whatever project I'm working on, regardless of the budget, regardless of who, if there's big names or not. It's that level of commitment, that level of passion. And that's the one thing that has been consistent from all the no budget freebies to, the biggest budget projects. But Walking Dead was my rite of passage, you could say.
Absolutely amazing. And I have a picture here of you in full zombie attire, and I just love it. Look at, you're absolutely right. They transform us into something, well, it's just absolutely magical. And I love that you got that high standard, top class, like you mentioned, top notch. That's with the pros, and that's who you are, Busy. And that's why it's so wonderful to celebrate beautiful hearts like you, because you are the integral part of the entertainment industry. You keep the wheel running in the very best way. And so I'm so proud of you. Now, how long did it take for this? Did it take hours and hours for this?
This particular makeup that we're looking at was about an hour and a half. Um, and the only reason that it wasn't longer, because in the first few seasons, they still used my real hair. So this was before we had to do like bald caps and extensive makeup that was like with bone showing. So these initial makeups, on average, an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Wow, this is thrilling. And I want to say, everybody, everyone knows The Walking Dead. It's just how wonderful to be a part of that great production, Busy.
It was one of those experiences where even in the moment, I knew that I was a part of something really special. The first time that I stepped out onto that set, and this was the first season, of course, we were still shooting in downtown Atlanta. So the first time I walked out on set, I had to walk through Woodruff Park, which is, it's a very small park, right in the middle, right in the heart of downtown Atlanta. And I had already had my zombie lenses put in, so I needed help making my way to set because it's your vision is definitely a little obscured when you've got the lenses in. Um, so I was literally being like, my handheld walking through Woodruff Park, and I just remember feeling everyone's attention turning and like, oh my God, what is that? And then when I actually made it out onto set, there was about 8 square blocks that was dressed as if it was the apocalypse. That is a massive set, massive. And so to look and to just, as soon as I walked out there and I saw how huge this production was and how detailed, I immediately knew. I was like, this is something special. This is gonna be and I had, of course, nobody back then had any idea what degree of success it was gonna be. But I think all of us knew on some level this is a major paradigm shift for not just for Atlanta, but for television. Like I was like, I don't know any show that does something this huge. So it was really exciting at the onset, and it only got more exciting as time went on, as new characters were introduced, and we were coming up with more and more creative locations and creative ways to kill zombies. I've been killed over 50 times as a walker, and no two kills have ever been the same.
Isn't that something? And when everyone was looking at you, um, that's because the makeup was done so well. And I bet did you feel comfortable when you got on with all the other zombies?
The only time it was uncomfortable was when we would be at lunch and we would have the walkers and then we would have the human actors, and a lot of the human actors, it almost looked like they were having a hard time eating next to these bloody disgusting monsters. So that was the only time that I felt compelled to like turn my back to the actors, because I felt like they can't even eat when they're looking at me. I'm so disgusting.
Yes, and
So that's a
amazing. And
wonderful
confidence that you have that you've done that and gone through the experience. Did you have a lot of extensive training? Did the studio or TV, areas help you with that? Tell us a little bit about that, Busy.
The majority of my training, as with most stunt people, came from my professional athletic background. So like I said, the majority of it came from being a gymnast and already knowing how to fall, how to take a hard hit, and not just endure it, but to be able to genuinely not get hurt. And so there's an expression, we call it intestinal fortitude. So it's not only having the physical strength to be able to execute it, and even if it's perfect, you're going to have to do multiple takes to get different kinds of coverage. So endurance is absolutely necessary. There is there are some training schools for specialty, whether it's driving or fire. But generally speaking, there's not really a training program that encompasses everything that you need to know in stunts. So part of the job of being a stunt person is to educate yourself. So rather than doing uh, like I actually took fight classes and then learned how to adapt those techniques for film. And that's probably a terrible example because of all the things that I do, fights are by far the worst. I have too much ballet training, so I stand up too tall. And but I do know, like I said, how to take a hard hit. I know how to maintain my energy level so that I can replicate that same action over and over again. A lot of it is also acting. So, yes, I'm falling, or yes, I'm getting stabbed in the head or whatever. but I'm not doing it as Elizabeth. I'm doing it as a walker in this case. So one of the things that, and the reason why I smiled is because Walking Dead in particular, they do have a zombie school. And it's mostly for our background to make sure that no one's doing like the Frankenstein arms or anything like that. But when we would, um, at the very beginning, like before every season started, our main director and showrunner, Greg Nicotero, he wanted to see how the stunt people moved. And so he would actually bring us to the studio. The stunt coordinator would bring, a big group of people and say, well, these are all the people I'm, probably going to kill this season. And so he would actually have us just walk through. We would do it like in the cafeteria. And we would have to work with the director, and he would tweak very like this shoulder like this and your arms like this. And so they really were very hands on when it came to how they wanted the walkers to move. And then it was our job to maintain that while we're, you know, getting punched or kicked or all the things. So it's a combination of a lot of different kind of training, but it is the responsibility of every individual stunt person to go do that training on their own and then adapt it for film. So it's a never ending education. And even now I am still regularly, I do driving training. I do consistently doing fire training because that's a skill that should never get rusty. Um, so it's something that a person needs to be very motivated to do on their own. And the reason why I'm choosing my words carefully, because there are a few organizations out there that are legitimate, that will take you through the basics. But even then, at the end of the program, they'll still tell you you need to, on your own, continue to develop these skills. So on your own, um, and that's one of the reasons why I built my own facility, was because there wasn't really a place to go practice these skills that wouldn't like upset civilians. um, so yeah, I mean, even just doing falls, basic acrobatic stuff, working with weapons. There's so many different aspects to stunt work that it is a full-time job, absolutely, to acquire skills, to make them better, sharper, faster, cleaner, and then how to sell all of those things for camera. So it's an ongoing education, but it is very self motivated. Um, and I guess that about sums it up. But and again, there are some stunt people who they only want to do driving, or they only want to do fights, or they only, and it's very difficult to build an entire career doing just one specialty thing. So most stunt people will continuously educate themselves in all of those different avenues so that we can be more of a value on set. So that, if they bring me on to double this one actress, I should be able to, do her fights, do her falls, do her driving. So the more skills you have, the more valuable you are, the more likely you are to work. So it's kind of a very self-motivated education.
You have done so well, and I'm so proud of you. I just want to say that again. You built your own facility. Tell us about that. Is it something private just to you, or do you rent it out to certain people, or is it for your own self-training?
The um, the original inspiration was in the spirit of having to train every single day. Like once I decided that stunts is what I want to do, that's my full-time job. And if I'm not on set, then it's my job to get get better and be of value so that I can end up on set. And so I grew up in a gymnastics school. My parents were Ukrainian immigrants, and both of them gymnastics instructors. So they built a gym, and I have no memory of not being in that. Like, my earliest childhood memory was being in their gym. And so growing up in that kind of environment, once I made the decision that I wanted to pursue stunt work, I tried to establish at different gymnastic schools, different martial arts facilities. I'm like, hey, can we come into your space on Mondays? Can we come to your space on Saturdays? And it became so tedious that my close network of up and coming stunt brothers and sisters, we would go to these different facilities, and I'm like, oh my God, we just need our own home. We just need our own place where we're not going to upset the children when we bring our weapons out. We're not going to upset the parents when we start doing, fake fighting. So the inspiration came out of necessity. We just needed a home base. So my thought was, well, I have experience of growing up in my parents' gym. I have some understanding of how that kind of facility needs to be run. So rather than have a gymnastics facility, what if I just opened a gym that was only available to stunt people, and it would be like our own little private Crunch Fitness, where we would set up a fight area, a trampoline, a spring floor, a stretch area, a place out back where we can set each other on fire. And so that was kind of the inspiration, and the idea being that if I get enough members, that would help sustain the facility, and then I'll just be responsible for organizing it. So that was the inspiration, and that was, oh my gosh, 11 years ago. Oh my God. I need to stop doing math.
That- That's great. That is great. Is it still going on?
hmm
Oh my God.
Actually, this year I'm very proud. I don't want to get too excited. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I am officially expanding. Right now, the facility that I've been in is it's 5,800 square feet, but the ceilings are only 18 feet high. And for the kind of rigging and for the kind of acrobatics that we need to do, I need at least 25-foot ceilings. And so I'm very proud to say that I am going to be expanding very, very soon.
Amazing, Elizabeth, and congratulations, and so well deserved because you put so many years into it. And I just want to say bravo on being a gymnast and already having those skills. That was a blessing. You know, you're such a gift because you're so skilled, you're so talented in a variety of different stunts. And then as well, you've got the bonus because you can you're a great actress. I mean, it just falls into place, doesn't it? That's how I'm seeing your story. It's a beautiful story.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for that. I I definitely look at acting as one of the things I've definitely had to work at the hardest, because one of my biggest fears actually was well, when I was growing up, because I was such a serious competitive gymnast, I rather than go to high school, I actually homeschooled. And so from ninth grade on, um, I was at the gym full time. And I didn't realize that one of the sacrifices was I kind of lost the ability to socialize. I did not know how to talk to people my own age. If it wasn't about gymnastics, and so I was very quiet, and naturally I've always been a bit of an introvert anyway. But by the time I graduated from high school, I, like a lot of people, thought I was a mute. I just I didn't know how to talk to people. And so rhythmic gymnastics, which is the sport that I was competing in, was not offered in collegiate gymnastics. So when I got to graduation age, I had to make a decision. Do I continue to pursue this when people are already calling me grandma? Or do I go to college and start a life? And the way I articulated it in my mind was join the real world. Um, so I joined the real world, and I went to Georgia State University, and I picked theater to major in because I could not think of anything scarier than getting up on stage and having to talk to hundreds or like 1,000 people. And so just the thought would, like, my heart would pound out of my chest. And so I thought, well, that'll be a good way for me to challenge myself, because if I don't step outside my comfort zone, I'm going to be living this very timid life. And that would be such a disservice to my parents because of how much they sacrificed and how hard they worked and how difficult of a process it was from them to make it from the Ukraine to the United States. And I remember I was actually the first in my family born in the United States. And I just remember growing up, like, I remember when we had meat for the first time and how my parents were celebrating and saying, we're rich. And I remember all of those milestones. Um, we were living in a one-bedroom apartment with my mom, my dad, my grandma and grandpa, my other grandma, my sister, and me. But we felt so wealthy because we were the only family living in that one apartment. And I remember so distinctly every milestone. And again, my parents had such an amazing work ethic that by the time I got to the age where I was able to appreciate it, I honestly felt like the way that I was living my life was doing them a disservice. They moved to this country so that I could have these kinds of freedoms, and what was I doing with it? Living like a mouse. And so I thought, okay, well, let me do the scariest thing that I can think of. And maybe that'll pull me out of my shell a little bit. And then I can, I don't know. I don't know what I'll do with it after that. But by being a theater major, of course, I started looking at, well, what kind of auditions are going on in town? And that led, one thing led to another. And here I am now.
I love this. It's so wonderful. And I know your parents are proud of you and you've done so great. You know, life is a process for all of us, everyone, and you've handled each phase beautifully. And also, Elizabeth, I love your heart that you're humble and appreciative of life. And you know, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You've always had this great energy and strength within you, and I see that now, and it's just going to continue. And you've done, like I said, you've contributed. Thank you so much for all this great entertainment that you have given us. So and this is so wonderful, and I'm enjoying it so much, Elizabeth. Can we talk a little bit about, we've got Oprah Winfrey on the screen here. Can you imagine? Everybody loves and knows Oprah, and it's called The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Can you share with us the story behind that?
That is a project that I am so incredibly proud to have been a part of. And anyone who's familiar with the story knows that it's a true story. When this project was first offered to me, of course, the first thing that I did was read the book. And I was mortified. How have I never heard of this woman? What an amazing story. And one of the things that I absolutely love is um, the daughter of Henrietta at one point even said, "And when they make the movie, Oprah's going to play me." So she even like put that out there. And so I, to be perfectly honest, I was very indifferent to Oprah. I wasn't like one of her followers, but I didn't dislike her. I just was very indifferent. Um, before intimacy coordinating was even a thing, anytime there would be anything that resembled assault, sexual assault, child abuse, any domestic violence, that would always fall on the stunt coordinator because that would fall under the umbrella of action. So, one of the reasons why I believe I was brought onto this project is because I was probably the only female stunt person that this producer had heard of. And so they brought me in to interview, and I interviewed with three of the producers. And I remember very distinctly telling them that regardless of what the action is, that my emphasis is on telling the story. And because this was such a powerful story, I think because of that and because I was a female and the nature of the story does involve some sexual assault, I think that's why they decided to bring me on. And I was so it was so important to me that the pinnacle scene of the sexual assault, that it was I was so adamant about making sure that it was handled with dignity, with respect, but that we were actually telling the story of the trauma, because this was a true story, and it was so important to me that the audience understood. It's not about anything specifically visual, but the audience really needed to feel the terror that this young lady was feeling, and the fact that this assault was happening to her by a family member. Like, there were so many aspects of the story that you couldn't necessarily, it was not easy to share with just visuals. So one of the things that I asked for was a full rehearsal day, the day before filming, just privately with that actress and that actor, making absolutely sure that they were comfortable with each other, that they were comfortable with the choreography was so specific. Every button ripping, every hand, every single moment of it was choreographed very specifically so that the camera would follow and capture those moments, to build up that sense of anxiety, to build up that sense of helplessness. And it was a very long rehearsal, and I'm so grateful that production gave me that luxury. And the director at one point came in towards the end of rehearsal, and I remember making sure, that he was happy with what it is that we were doing. And he was over the moon. He was like, "Yes, this is it. This is exactly. Oh my god, I can't wait to shoot this." So, cut to the next day, we're on set. We're going through all of the action with our DP to make sure that he got the camera movement as it was choreographed. We send our talent away for last looks. We put our stand-ins on the couch, and the director turns to me and says, "I think I like the stand-in better." My heart sank. I was like, "But I did this rehearsal for hours and hours and hours. This actor was so dialed in, and you want me to switch him out at the last minute?" But we do what the directors ask, right? So I walked while my actress was literally like, they were doing last looks on her. And I'm okay. Here I am with the stand in, and let me walk you through the process. And of course, it was very tedious. Um, I was so impressed. This guy picked it up, and the director made the right call. 100%. This guy was he was perfect. What ended up happening was the director didn't know every single beat. And so when it came time to shoot it, I was standing next to him at the monitor, and whenever he would be ready for the next beat, he would just start slapping me. And I'm like, uh, uh, okay. And it became very awkward. And so finally he was like, "You call it." I've never directed before. And so to be put in a position where the director turns to me and says, "You call it." Okay, here we go. So I was laser focused. My actors were absolutely tremendous. My DP was a rock star, and I had no idea that Miss Oprah had walked in and was watching the whole thing. The reason why that was so meaningful to me, this woman walked in, and I mean, she's an icon, but she came in so quiet, so humble, no makeup, no fanfare, no entourage. She just came in as a producer and very quietly sat back in Video Village to make sure that things were getting done the way that she wanted. So I was also very, very lucky that the crew was so respectful and they did every single thing that I asked, including the moment we call cut. I don't want to hear a word on set. Nobody moves, nobody breathes. I don't want to hear equipment moving around until I know that my actress is composed and that she's okay. The crew was so respectful. The director was amazing. And we did I think we did a series of, I think all in all, we did it 5 or 6 times, and it was a long scene. So it was very intense, but we got it. And by the end of it, everybody was so emotional. And I turned around and Miss Oprah gives me the nod of approval. That had to have been absolutely one of the highlights. I mean, at that point, that was the highlight of my career because it was a combination of a very specific kind of physical movement, but it was so about the storytelling. It was so about creating the feeling. And so to be given the opportunity on that platform with this level of, it blew my mind. And it was one of those moments where I was like, how did I get here? How did I end up doing this with these people and then being so set up for success? And there were a lot of other things that we did in this film, but at the end of it, when I was watching the movie and I remember watching that scene, it took me right back to that day and how supportive the crew was, how amazing Miss Oprah was, which of course, she says you don't have to call me Miss Oprah, but I can't not give her that respect because again, she was iconic. And then when it came time to work with her to do some physical action, at one point she choke slams our other actress, slams her up against a wall. And so I also did have to work directly with her. How humble this woman, considering how iconic she is and influential, and I couldn't believe how I, it was a very humbling experience. And so I have so much pride in this one particular project because it is an incredible true story. And a lot of people are going to only know this story through the film. And so having any association with it, that absolutely is one of the things that I am the most proud of.
Just absolutely amazing. What an honor and what an incredible memory and experience. It's really a once in a lifetime uh, opportunity, like you said. And I'm just so thankful you had that chance. I love Oprah. I know so many people love Oprah. We respect her so much. We love her and adore her. She is incredible. She's amazing. And for you to get the chance to work with her, my oh my, what an absolute dream come true. And just absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yes, it is a highlight. It's a highlight to this show and it's a highlight in your life. And What a wonderful thing to get a nod and approval from Miss Oprah Winfrey. That's like a superstar pat on the back, isn't it, Elizabeth?
100%. And I, stunt people, a lot of times we don't get that attaboy because that's for our actors. Like we just pull up on the motorcycle. It's the actress that takes the helmet off and gets all the credit. So the Vin Diesels of the world, they're the ones that are supposed to get the credit, but we know they're not. You know what I mean? So to get an attaboy on that level from someone that I hold in such high regard, absolutely. Yeah. Not only career highlight, but life highlight. Um and
Absolutely.
a lot of people when they think of stunts and there are so many projects that I've been a part of that these are serious dramas. They're not known for action. And but that's I'm more than fine with that because just the little bit that I contributed mattered. And so that's all that's enough for me to say I contributed, even if it was just for a few seconds, just in this, one scene here and a 2 seconds here, but it made the difference and it helped tell the story.
Mhm.
That's enough for me.
Yes, I love it. And I want to recommend everybody to check out The Walking Dead if you haven't seen it. It's incredible. And also The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. And is that still on HBO, or they can just Google it, right, Elizabeth?
Yes. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, speaking of doubles, I've got another picture here I want to put on the screen. You've got these are great, great photos. And look at the wardrobe and even down to the tattoo on the second picture. Such attention to detail. You covered all bases. Tell us about these two great photos, Elizabeth.
Well, the more familiar face, Miss Molly Shannon, I doubled her on a really goofy movie called Scary Movie 5. Um, I it's it was ridiculous as we were filming it and we knew it, but one of the executive producers was one of the creators of Airplane, one of the most iconic comedies of all time. And so being in a position where I'm doubling for an actress who is known for physical comedy, one of the stunts that I got to do for her, the scene in the movie is the joke is she's got she's got a neck brace, she's got one leg in a cast, she's on crutches, and she does this really ridiculous pratfall into a bunch of uh, flats that are like 20 feet high, and so these flats like are collapsing on her. Really, really goofy. Being able to make her laugh, being able to make those guys from Airplane laugh. I remember being underneath those flats and hearing people go, "Oh my god, is she okay? Like is she giving the thumbs up? Is she okay?" And I'm under there just giggling because yes, of course, I mean, it hurts, but whatever, that's my job. But to hear them laughing, I wanted to go again. I wanted to do it again and again and again. And I've never been one of those people to ask for a photo with my actress. Molly actually came to me and asked. I think she gave the phone to like one of our wardrobe people, but she was like, "Can you get a picture of me with my stunt double?" And I just remember thinking, "Oh my god!" Like, yes, yeah, I would love to take a picture with you. Um, and yeah, to be able to do something to make her laugh, considering how much laughter she's brought to me and my family. She has to be one of the most gracious and one of the most amazing actresses that I've ever had the pleasure of calling my acting double.
Incredible. And look how happy you both are. She's so happy with your performance and that you're her double, and you're just having a wonderful time as well. And again, there's that kudos, that great dynamic and chemistry when you're on set. What a beautiful feeling. You've had that a lot. And is that important? That's important, isn't it? To have that camaraderie with the actors and the crew. I mean, it sounds like so much fun. You made them laugh and you were in your element.
I wish it was always like that. There have definitely been occasions where I show up on set and my actress looks me up and down and either is unhappy for whatever reason. I remember I showed up one time and my actress literally looked me up and down and went straight to the producer. Um, Sorry, I skipped a part. She looks me up and down. Who are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm your stunt double. My name's Elizabeth, and I'm here to support you and just help you with whatever you need. She turns around and goes straight to the producer and says, Elizabeth said that she'll do all my nude scenes.
Oh my.
So there yeah, there have definitely been times where I've either been, kind of exploited, or my actress doesn't like my figure, or thinks that my figure is nicer than hers, but for whatever reason, there have absolutely been times where it has not gone very well, and it reads in the final product. And so I do always go out of my way to try to make myself available. Um, and what I've learned is the more talented and uh, yeah, the more talented and professional the actress is, the better we get along. It's usually just the insecure ones that I've had issues with. So for the most part, I've been very, very lucky in that I've worked for some amazing talent. The other young lady that is in the photo, that's Francesca Eastwood. That's Clint Eastwood's daughter. And what a talent. And to be honest, I had never really heard of her until I showed up on set and we met. And she had a lot of action. It was all about a bank robbery, and so there's gunplay. There's all sorts of just running, falling down the stairs, um, and she liked that I had muscles, and so that was one of the first times that I had an actress that tried to look like me, as well as me going through the works and trying to look like her. So it was this really beautiful symbiotic relationship, and I feel like it reads in the final product, because there are times where I'm like, wait, was that me or was that Francesca? But she was really lovely to work with, and I'll be honest, when she was on the phone with her dad and I would hear his voice, I would get a little starstruck. I'm like, "Oh my god, it's Clint Eastwood." Which she
Absolutely.
was hilarious.
Absolutely. And she thought that was hilarious. We love Clint Eastwood, and I'm with you on that. He's a legend. And Francesca Eastwood, his daughter, what a great experience that you got. And again, you said that level, as you go higher up in the top professional skills and experience, and in that category, the humbleness is there, the appreciation for their craft, the respect, and that's the respect that you deserve and everyone deserves, and every stunt person deserves. And Elizabeth, I want to tell you, you are absolutely lovely how you present. And I can see why she enjoyed it so much. And that's another great picture. I love it. You both are smiling. You're in sync. You can tell that you're in sync. And so, where can people watch these two film productions? Can they just search for them online?
Scary Movie, I'm pretty sure is available on multiple platforms. The Vault, I want to say it's on Netflix. I know it's on a major streaming uh platform. I'm pretty sure it's available on Netflix.
Great. Okay. Great. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for that. So check that out. The Vault and Scary Movie. Is it Scary Movie 5? Scary Movie 5. Boy, they did really good, didn't they? When the 3, 4, 5. That's, but you know what? It's fun to have one of those as well. A little campy. And what a great experience with Molly Shannon. And we love her and adore her as well. Elizabeth, I've got two more great posters. I mean, you have a smorgasbord that was kind of so hard to pick because I want everyone to, follow Elizabeth on Instagram and check her out on IMDb and support her and follow her. And 'cause she's in some wonderful, just look at the wonderful productions that she has been in and continues to. Just so impressive, and a beautiful, beautiful career, and couldn't be more deserved to a more beautiful heart, Elizabeth, and that's you. And so we've got another two great posters on here. What you want to share?
Well, I'll start with VHS because that was that was one of those experiences that we had no idea what we were making while we were making it. This was literally a very close friend of mine, David Bruckner, brilliant, brilliant and talented director. Um, and he's since then gone on to do much bigger and better things. He works internationally quite a bit. Um, but we were literally just hanging out with some friends, and he was like, Davidovich, I have this idea. I have this idea for a monster, but it's really kind of messed up. But it's something that I just want to see. Like, I love the idea. And he starts expanding on this idea of this succubus creature and how she takes revenge on these, as in his words, these D-bag, spring break dudes, and how it would kind of be like a revenge story. And we were just kind of toying around with these ideas of, wouldn't it be fun to see this? And wouldn't it be fun to do that? So it was just a concept that he literally just wanted to shoot for his own pleasure, just because it's something that he thought would be entertaining, for us. And so the script that he came up with was just a 10 or 15-minute long vignette, just a very short little mini movie. I think it was the second day of filming, the first time that we were like, we locked ourselves into in a hotel room for a weekend and made this movie. Literally, it was just like all of our friends, just our makeup friends, our special effect, our puppeteer friends, our stunt friends. And after about not even the first day of shooting, David gets a phone call from some associates of his saying, "Hey, we're putting together this found footage film, and we would love for you to submit maybe, I don't know, a 10 to 15-minute long vignette." And the style that we were shooting was found footage. It's all from the POV of our hero, who's wearing these spy glasses. And David was like, holy crap, we're shooting something like that right now. And when we're done, we'll send it off to you. And, if it fits, cool. Well, it fit. Next thing we know, we're at Sundance. We went from, hey, let's just shoot this just for fun. And we thought we were just going to screen it at we would have a holiday party every year at our little studio where we all kind of congregated. So it went from screening at a Christmas party to, next thing we know, we got invited because the production company that put together these little vignettes, they filmed a wraparound story to connect all of these VHS tape stories. And not only did we find ourselves at Sundance, but by the end of the festival, we were in the festival top 10 must see. And so by virtue of that, they added a bunch more screenings. And so we ended up having multiple screenings, multiple Q&As, and at the end of the week, Magnolia Pictures comes up and says, "Hey, we want to buy it." And not only did they buy it, but they turned it into a franchise. And our minds were melting. How And I attribute the success to never, not once did we ever try to imagine or think of what does the audience want to see. We made this movie for us. We thought that it would be entertaining and amusing and disturbing, and it was something that we wanted to see. And so ever since then, and still to this day, I treat things like, what would I want to see? What would entertain me? What would impress, the me and my people? Um, and that's what we came up with.
It's such an incredible story. I love this. I love it all the way to Sundance and beyond into even that's like a
more.
dream come true. That's someone's dream right there, going to Sundance. And the visionary and the creativity behind it, how lovely that you could do it with your friends. And isn't that what it's all about?
It really is. And it's so funny because a lot of us have, well, I mean, everyone involved in that project, the producer, the main actress, the director, we've all found some measure of success going on in different directions. And all we talk about whenever we reconnect is, I just want to make a movie with you again. I just want to make a movie with my friends. But I think the secret of that success is the sincerity.
Yes, the sincerity and the authenticity and that wonderful community of friends. Let's now talk about a little bit about Stranger Things 4.
I was an instant fan when the show came out. And I was very fortunate to have worked for the stunt coordinator on previous shows. So he brought me on season 3, it actually is when I started, and he brought me on to double Winona, which, I mean, iconic. And so I, already being a fan of the show, I was excited on multiple levels. And I did my homework because her character, Joyce, moves in a very specific way. And so I really studied her movement and how that particular character reacted and how she moved when she was in mom mode. And so by the time I showed up on set, day 1, I was so ready. I was so committed to, like, I just want to be the best Joyce that I can be. And Winona recognized that. And so the very first stunt that I did, it wasn't really a stunt so much as I was just taking her place for a special effects explosion. Because, of course, we don't want our actors anywhere near that just in case. And thank God, because the first time we did it, it was a little bigger than we expected. And so my whole action was just to jump out of the car and run away. But because I studied her very specific posture, she actually made a point to come over and say thank you. Because she was like, I've had stunt girls run for me before and they look like athletes. She was like, you look like me. And I think she appreciated that because, and she told me this later, it should be noted that Winona is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. She has an amazing figure. She looks amazing. She goes out of her way to make the mom character not gorgeous. So that posture is very purposeful. The hair, like, she goes out of her way to make sure that the wardrobe is not flattering, that it's very mom-like. Um, and so, and it's funny because like she has to work to not be gorgeous. And so the character moving in a way that isn't necessarily like, because everyone wants to be the superhero and everyone wants to be sexy and glamorous, but that's not Joyce. And so I'm more than willing to have the, not sexy wig and the flannel shirts and the old Reeboks. I was more than okay with that. I had so much fun studying her and how she moved. And it got to the point where whether they needed me or not, if Winona had the option of using me, she would say, Liz got it. And she would go and just sit in the monitor and watch. And I can't tell you how gracious she is. She's one of the few actresses that she was like, thank you for doing that. And of course, I'm like, well, that's my job. But the fact that she's thanking me because she sees, like, there's a couple of scenes where these squibs are going off like right over my head and to simulate like bullets. And so all of these sparks and she really, really appreciated that I was willing to put my physicality at risk to help tell this story. Um, I'd never had an actress thank me for taking her place and for making it safe for her and making myself available, even if I wasn't on camera. I remember there was one set where there were a couple of levels to the set and everything was metal. And so our David Harbour was doing a fight with somebody else, and I was not on camera. I'm in the scene, but I wasn't on camera. But I took it upon myself to just be there because this one level, it was very easy to step off. And sure enough, one of our makeup artists, she was doing last looks, and she uh, almost fell because she just didn't see this step. And I happened to be there and I just put my hand on the small of her back and I was like, oh, I got you. I got you. Winona came all the way from Video Village to come over to thank me for being there and for keeping people safe. So to have anybody recognizing that sort of thing is already more than I would expect. I'm genuinely just there, I really didn't want anyone to break an ankle. Everything was metal and just dangerous. But to have the actress, usually they're sitting in their, in their chairs and they're comfortable. And she goes out of her way to say, hey, thank you for doing that. And it's a testament to how gracious she is and how much she cares about all of the cast and all of the crew. She has this natural, maternal, nurturing energy, but she's very quiet. She's very reserved. And so she doesn't have a big presence on set. So when she sees something like that, she'll just very quietly come over and say thank you. And that just, it thrills me to no end because I have so much respect for what she does and for how long she's been doing it. I
So
She is absolutely a class act and hands down one of my most favorite actresses that I've ever doubled. And I doubled her for 2 seasons. I'm hoping to go back, definitely hoping to go back. But I've recently I've paradigm shifted into a lot more stunt coordinating. And so I'm actually right now I'm coordinating a TV show with another one on the way. Um, and so I haven't been as available. But I've definitely if Winona calls, I'll drop everything. I'll come running.
Yes. Oh my gosh. What a
So great
great
to talk to
story
you about.
about all of these wonderful moments in your life, Elizabeth. And, again, I just want to say we celebrate you and we celebrate Winona and all the great productions you've been in and all the great actors. It's truly phenomenal. It really, really is. And I'm gonna bring in two more posters that are just so much fun. We've got Jamie Foxx in Day Shift and the Beanie Bubble. Now, I have to tell you, I met Jamie Foxx one time, and he's such a class act, such a nice guy, and I'm so glad everything, is back to normal. We wish him a lot of blessings, him and his family. So that's a wonderful thing. We want to talk about Day Shift and your experience with on that set, and then the Beanie Bubble. And I want everyone to search for these online and watch them because they're truly entertaining and they're great. Share with us your
Fun.
thoughts.
I'll start with Day Shift because I was just a stunt player on that one. I did have the great fortune of getting to double Carla. Um, she had several doubles because as a vampire, our director, the brilliant J.J. Perry, stuntman extraordinaire, um, he created a scene where, because we're vampires and we move so quickly, we actually had multiple doubles to simulate. And he would just, with quick camera movement, go from one double to another to make it look like we were vamping as we were beating up Jamie Foxx. So I was thrilled to be involved in that portion of it. And I just cannot say enough nice things about JJ. It was his directorial debut. Um, he was an amazing athlete in his own right, and then amazing stunt coordinator, and then worked his way up to directing. And the energy on that set was incredible. And it trickled down to every single department. It trickled down to every single individual. It was such an incredible, it felt electric on set. And JJ would run around and like he'd be directing this thing, but then he would come over to check rehearsal over here. And it was just like you couldn't keep up with him. He was such a powerful vision. He knows exactly what he wants, he knows exactly how to shoot it. And we had so much fun shooting it. Watching it back, I mean, it's really incredible action. And JJ, he incorporated contortionists in such a way that we were literally like crumpling these vampires and doing these practical action that had just never been done before. So I absolutely loved watching JJ do his thing, command that set, to the point where Jamie Foxx and Snoop Dogg were like, it, even even scenes that they weren't necessarily in, they would come and watch some of the setups. And it was such an epic production to be a part of. A lot of people draw comparisons. They say it's like John Wick with vampires. Um, and I think that association happens just because, John Wick was directed by a stuntman. This was directed by a stuntman. I personally feel like it does have a similar kind of energy, but Day Shift was so much fun. And I really think that that fun translated into the final product because I don't know anybody who has watched that movie that doesn't have just a massive smile on their face. So that was beyond fun. Um, and yeah, working with Jamie and working with Snoop, I of course I wish I had more time with them, but with my limited experience with them, absolutely class acts, could not be nicer, could not be more professional. It was such a pleasure to be a part of that production. So I'm really excited. I hope they make, I know the sequel is going to be amazing. And I cannot wait to see what else JJ comes up with.
Really great. Thank you for that. And so much fun. Let's talk a little bit about the Beanie Bubble. There's some really fun comedic. I know there's some comedy in it, and tell us more about it.
So I got to coordinate this film that it's not a huge action movie, but I love that it starts with a reenactment of something that really happened, which was this big semi on a highway that has an accident and Beanie Babies just go flying all over the highway. And so the very first scene, that was a whole second unit, just what a joy that was to film. Um, it was a husband and wife director, Kristen Gore and Damian Kulash, who Damian is the lead singer of a band called OK Go. And for people who are not familiar with the music videos of OK Go, Google them, look it up on YouTube. Some of the most masterful videos I have ever seen in my life. The the different amazing visions that they're able to execute, uh, absolutely brilliant. So Damien brought that same creativity and that same kind of energy into the film. Um, Kind of side note, a little bit of a coincidence. I had a rock and roll catering company for a little over a decade, and I actually worked for OK Go at one point as a hospitality director. So I had met Damien in a completely different capacity. So here I am years later, his stunt coordinator for his film. And it was just one of those full circle moments that was just so incredibly cool. But being a musician, and having really good rhythm, I really saw how that translated into the rhythm of the film. And then you combine that with the unbelievable acting of Zach Galifianakis. Holy cow. Comedians, I have so much respect for, because that is so incredibly difficult. It's hard enough to be funny one time, but to do take after take after take and make it fresh and funny every single time, that is that is impressive. And I've worked with some really really talented comedians, and it never ceases to amaze me how serious they are about their comedy. Whether it's practicing the same line of dialogue over and over again with the inflection on the first word, on the second word, on the third, until they find exactly where the humor is. It's almost surgical. It's so impressive. And then as soon as they call action and the cameras are rolling, it's so organic and they make it sound like it's the first time that's ever been said. It's so impressive. And Zach is a master when it comes to that. And the number of times that he would just kind of be off in the corner, going over the sides, going over the dialogue, and I hear him kind of like talking to himself and figuring out exactly how he's going to deliver it. That man works hard. And he works so incredibly hard but makes it look effortless. It was such a joy to watch. It was such a joy to even just be a small part of. Because again, not a huge action movie, but there's a punch here and a slap there and a fall here and a car crash, which that was actually cut out of the movie. One of the most enjoyable scenes that I've ever gotten to shoot. Me in a car, down low so that you can't see me do. I'm doing the steering and I'm doing the braking, but the gag is that Zach is pushing the car and that it loses control and crashes into a car that Elizabeth Banks is sitting on. So I'm literally blind in the car, like, just with Zach right here, and he's just kind of like sidebar chit chatting with me as we're shooting the scene. And I know that they ended up cutting that scene because we got so much incredible footage that if we included all of it, it would have been a 4-hour long movie, if not longer. There was so much good stuff that we just didn't have time for. And I give Damien so much credit for having the ability to feel the rhythm and the momentum of the film to just make sure that the story got told. So, yeah, this was a great scene that we shot, but it messed up with the rhythm and the timing. And we really needed to get to this story point instead. So he was willing to sacrifice. That's amazing to me. That's a whole other kind of discipline that I'm wanting to learn as I get more into coordinating and now producing. Um, I have so much respect for that level of discipline because you spend so much time and so much money. You're so invested in this, and I've worked with people that are like, oh, we'll find a way to shoehorn it in, but then it feels shoehorned in. Whereas the Beanie Bubble, at one point, I don't even remember. I got up off the couch and I was like inches away from the screen. It literally drew me in because it was so funny and it was so engaging. And and my boyfriend's laughing at me because he was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know why I'm here. Let me come back to the couch." But it was such a just such a wonderful experience from beginning to end. And I cannot say enough nice things about Elizabeth Banks as well. She had just um, she had just finished Cocaine Bear, which was her directorial debut, which I didn't realize that she was directing. But it was really cool to be able to connect with her and say, "Oh yeah, by the way, I was the double for Carrie Russell jumping off the waterfall." And she was like, "Oh my god." So it was really cool to reconnect with her and to talk after the movie was filmed, but before it was released, and to get her insight on the challenges. Um, she was so insightful when it came to when we were filming the Beanie Bubble. She would have input on, she would most actresses when they call cut, they, get touched up or, they get snacks or whatever. She would go straight to Village and she was like, "Okay, let me watch playback. And what do you think if we used a crane instead and did this and come down and and her suggestions were pretty on point. So it was really fun to work with her, to see her developing her skills as a director. Um, and it was just a really cool coincidence that I happened to get picked up for the second unit bit of action just for that one scene in her movie, but to be able to say, "Oh yeah, by the way." So we had a lot of fun. Liz and Liz on set. We had a lot of fun.
So much fun, and I'm enjoying this so much. You know, everybody loves Elizabeth Banks in Succession,
And Elizabeth
and
was such a good sport about um because I one of the reasons I was in the car was to manage the speed. So I was on the brake. And after every take, I'd be like, "Okay, so how was that impact?" And she was like, "Give me more." And I'm like, "Okay." So it got to the point where I was completely off the brake, put it in neutral, and I was just steering and nose to nose. And she was great about it. She, yeah, she was all about it and communicated really well. She would tell me, on a scale of 1 to 10, she was like, "Yeah, that was about an 8." And I'm like, "Okay, well, we'll leave it at that." So her communication was great. Her willingness to be crashed into, it was it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I just love hearing that support and that camaraderie. How do you feel? And how do the stunt people feel? You as a producer, an actress, how do you feel about artificial intelligence, Elizabeth?
Well, first, I'm going to add the disclaimer that I definitely do not, speak for the whole stunt community because for as many individuals are out there, that's how many different opinions there are. I personally feel like it's an evolution of CG. And we used to feel pretty threatened by by that technology. For me, my feelings changed after Transformers, because that particular film, to me, kind of represented all of the things about CG that took life away from the film. And while on so many technical levels, it is a very masterful film. Do I care about it? Not a bit. Not one bit. Because I'm not feeling the danger. I'm not feeling any of it, because no matter how well done it is, on some level, we know that it's not real. It starts to look almost like a cartoon. And so, my opinion is CG should be used like icing on a cake. You use it to enhance, but you can't make the whole cake out of icing. There's got to be substance to it. And the way that I look at AI is just an extension of that. When it's overused, the audience can feel it. Even if it's on a subconscious level, our computer brains know, oh, okay, that element of danger isn't really there. That fire is not really real. I'll tell you right now, when I was on Walking Dead season 5, you can see me on fire, really getting burnt to a crisp, because that was a practical burn and it was supposed to be a partial burn. But because we were filming outside during daylight and it was difficult to see the flames, our director asked, well, can we go a little bit bigger? Unfortunately, as soon as they called action, this massive wind, we were shooting at the sanctuary. And so we were in between warehouses. As soon as they called action, this wind gust just turned it into a wind tunnel, and it ended up wrapping the flames completely around my head. And I ended up getting second-degree burns all over my face. I lost inches of my hairline. I lost all my eyelashes. Wherever I did not have zombie makeup on, it was burned almost to the bone. I still have scars to this day. um, but when you watch it, you feel like, oh, that zombie's on fire. You might not care because it's just a zombie, but you feel that it's real because it is. The flip side of that, when you have computer generated flames, your computer brain can kind of sense it, and it doesn't really feel catastrophic. You don't feel that element of danger, and you don't end up getting nearly as engaged or emotionally invested. So for me, my opinion is, as much as you can do practically and safely, do it practically, and then add, whether it's CG or AI elements, because it's all essentially just technology. So use that like icing on the cake. Use it to enhance a little bit here and there. Um, if you can use, like, for example, a real flame bar, and then just add a little bit, just a little bit, just to really make it like, you know, exciting for the audience. So in proportions, it can absolutely elevate a project. But if you're trying to bake your whole cake with it, it's there, yeah, there's no substance to it. People aren't going to care. And you end up getting something like Transformers. And I don't mean any disrespect at all. But when I'm sitting there complimenting the sound design, like, you're not being entertained by the story.
That's
You can be impressed with the technicalities all day long, and they really do. There's some masterful technical execution, but then, you look at the credits and it's just nonstop of all of the all of the computer graphics. So the more you can do practically, I do believe that the audience feels it. And so using technology, I feel like it should just be used in as minimal increments as possible. The same way that, a good makeup job, you don't notice the makeup. And so I feel like it should be approached the same way. It shouldn't be so noticeable that it pulls you out of the story.
I love that answer. And yes,
Um,
and
but there's plenty of room in our industry for animation, for the really outlandish, above and beyond. Like we know, we know when Captain America is throwing that person across the like we know that that's not really happening, but to some degree, eh, if that's the fantasy story that we want to get lost in, then people will get lost in it.
yes, that's right. And it's a very controversial subject. It's a hot topic. It's interesting how we'll see how it pans out over the next few years because we'll hear more about it and all of that. But thank you so much for expressing your opinion, and we value that and appreciate you so much. Um, the idea of you, tell us about that. And then also, we've got this beautiful photo of you by a photographer, a special photographer who I'd like you to mention the name. It's such a beautiful photo of you. I had to include it, and just the lighting, and it captures your beauty, your natural beauty, and you're just gorgeous in it. So over to you, Elizabeth. Take us into the idea of you.
Well, first, I would like to give the photographer credit. His name is Nate Dorn, and he is a just phenomenal, phenomenal photographer. We met on the set of it was a music video that ended up turning into a short film called Ghost of Old Highways, which I absolutely recommend people going on YouTube and watching not only Ghost of Old Highways, but I fully encourage people to watch the making of, because it's one of the most, for anybody who is up and coming as a filmmaker, that is incredibly inspiring. It's just an interview with the musical artist Ben Lovett, and our director Dan Bush, and it talks about the evolution of how it went from a music video into a short film that then uh, inspired Ben to create an original composition based on the film that was based on the song, and like this whole amazing circle of creativity that to this day I find really inspiring. And actually, the very first big film franchise that I ever got hired, it was Fast Five. And at one point, I overheard a couple of the guys on the stunt team talking about this. Oh, hey, did you see the most issue of nofilmschool.com? They're featuring this independent thing that was made in Atlanta and Asheville. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? And it was our video. And it was a whole exercise. And the whole idea was how to tell a story using just your creativity and having zero budget. The our joke on set was our budget was negative $10,000. And we were literally like turning our pockets inside out to shoot this music video for Ben, because Ben had donated so many original scores to independent filmmakers in Atlanta that we collectively offered to do music videos for him for free. And so it was just this beautiful relationship, but gorgeous music video. And again, the fact that it in turn inspired Ben to turn around and create an original composition, I definitely recommend watching the making of Ghost of Old Highways, because for people that have no money, sometimes that's a blessing. So I fully recommend it. And Nate Dorn, who was our BTS photographer, has created a whole gallery of artwork that are just stills from that film, and I have a bunch of them hanging up in my gym just because it's gorgeous artwork. But it's also, you know, it's kind of like movie posters, but brilliant, brilliant photographer. And I definitely recommend following him on social media. His pictures are just gorgeous. Um, but The Idea of You, that's a film that I coordinated with Anne Hathaway. And yeah, really lovely, really gracious, very talented. I really enjoyed working with her. Not a huge action film, again, but such a cute story, such a great script. The music is going to be um, it. I can't say enough nice things about it, and I kind of don't want to spoil anything because it's going to come out this summer. But uh, I've really been fortunate to work on a lot of projects. Very few that I'm genuinely excited to see that come out. Like I was really excited for Beanie Bubble to come out, and that did not disappoint. Um, and we did prolong the release of The Idea of You because of the strikes. But it is coming out this summer, and I'm very excited. The acting is just it's they were so lovely and so endearing. Um, it was such a pleasure to shoot. So I'm really looking forward to that
Did want
coming
to
out.
say is this is amazing, Busy, and also, how did you get to work with Anne Hathaway? I mean, is it her story? Is she the executive producer? How did that come about?
Um, she was one of our producers. And I believe the story is loosely based on a real actress and a younger musician. Um, I kind of don't want to say anymore because, you know, for NDA purposes. But I can say that it was loosely based on somewhat of a true story. Um, it was very, very fun to film, um, to to have our love, to watch them coming together. The chemistry on set was so sweet, and there are some very young faces, some very talented, some very, very talented young people. Um, do you remember the film That Thing You Do that Tom Hanks did? It has that same kind of great soundtrack, really youthful energy, really, really cute love story. And yeah, I think that's about as much as I can say without giving away any more of the story. Um, but Anne was incredibly gracious to work with, and even though she was one of the producers, she was not heavy-handed at all. As a matter of fact, she when she would put her producer hat on, it was mostly to take care of the cast and the crew, to make like I actually heard her at one point asking some of the other cast members, like, have you eaten, have you had a chance to eat yet, have you had a chance to take a break yet, have you, like, incredibly sweet, incredibly gracious. Completely opposite of some experiences where I see producers walking around going, why are we spending money on that? And why is that person here? So completely opposite. And yeah, I can't say enough nice things about her.
I'm super excited to see it and when it comes out. When is it coming out, Elizabeth?
I believe it's coming out in May.
Okay, so we'll look for that this summer. I'm thrilled that you got to work on this. The Idea of You. Check it out, everybody, on IMDb, and look for it this summer in May. And again, this has been so wonderful. You're such a great guest, and I could go on and on talking to you because You are a delight in every way, Elizabeth. And, we're friends for life. I want you to know I'm here for you every step of the way. I'd love to be able to keep in contact with you as well. I'm just so proud of you. My sister, my fellow sister, you're doing awesome. And I did want to ask, we have to start wrapping it up soon. And we're going to do our heart messages before we close the show. But I did want to ask you, do you want to give a special shout out to anybody, or a thank you, or any kind of acknowledgement that you would like to share? Over to you, Elizabeth.
Actually, at the risk of sounding like I'm receiving some kind of award, I genuinely want to thank my family, and especially my significant other, Daniel. Um, it's so incredibly difficult. Um, there was a show that I did. It was a superhero show, Naomi, that was so labor intensive that my family, like, they didn't see me for months. From August to end of January, February, it was so labor intensive because for people who work in television, you know that you're prepping one one episode while you're shooting another, and then it's just nonstop work. And so it was really, really difficult for my family because for my mom, she's worried that I'm not eating. For my dad, he's worried that I'm not sleeping, for to not see my boyfriend for so long. It was extremely difficult. It was very taxing on everybody. So more than anything else, I'm so incredibly grateful to have their full support. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do it and feel good about it. Because of course I love what I do. I love telling stories. I love making people feel things. And I love the idea of creating something that might change people's filter of how they even view the world. Whether it's, wow, I didn't know that that was possible, or being inspired by a love story, or watching some sort of assault or abuse and feeling like, oh, I'm not the only person who's had to endure that. So making people feel things, and then, I don't know, coming back to the world, with a slightly different filter, or a slightly, just a small shift in thinking. That's such an incredible gift to be a part of. And so I love so much what it is that I do, but I also know that sometimes that means being on set for 18 hours nonstop, 6 days a week, maybe weeks or months at a time. And that, for families, that's really difficult to adjust to. Even if it's, we're shooting nights and my family is like, oh my God, she's out in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night. Is she okay? Just even little things like that it's just really, really taxing. So more than anything else, I'm just really grateful to have a family that, considering they spent the first 10 years of my career trying to talk me out of it, now everybody is more than supportive, and that that means everything.
Oh, that's a wonderful um, appreciation that you have. And I'm so happy to hear you've got a good support system, because in the entertainment industry, you need that. You need good family, supportive friends. So important. So thank you for that, Elizabeth. And I've enjoyed this. This is one of my favorite shows. I just adore you and love you, and you're such a beautiful. You really are. I just have to say, such a beautiful heart you are. You're humble. You're grateful, thankful, appreciative of life, and that's why you're so successful, because you've always kept that grounded, centered, um, love of life and love of people. And that's a true star. So you are a rock star, you're a superstar. And I just want to tell you that and acknowledge you. And thank you again so much for for being my guest tonight. And I'm so happy with this show. And I know people are going to love it. So, Elizabeth, now we're going to do our heart messages. Okay. The purpose of life is not to be happy, it is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. And I don't have I think it's Emerson who said that. So I just want to include that of that. And it really is important to be, we can change the world. What we can, each of our choices do impact. It's a ripple effect throughout the world, and you can make a difference. And that's what we're here for. We're here to have the compassion. We're here to have, to change our world as filmmakers and storytellers to make it better. And you're a great part of that, Elizabeth. I hope you loved that heart message. And over to you.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is actually, to paraphrase, I think the author is Khalil Gibran. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Forgive me if I'm not. But in essence, move in passion, but rest in reason.
Wow, assurance. What does it mean to you?
To me, it means that when I'm moving through life, that I'm moving with emotion, but when I'm resting, I'm grounded in reality. And every action that I take is comes from a foundation of logic and reason. I'm a very emotional person, and I think that's one of the things that makes me a good artist. I'm highly sensitive, uh, maybe to a fault. But I've definitely embraced that sensitivity because I do think that that's what makes me aware of the subtle things that make me a good artist. But as emotional as I might get, I have to stay grounded. And so in order to stay grounded, I am tethered to reality. And that's being very logical. And that's the only way that I can make sure that my emotions don't run off and take me to some irrational crazy place. So I can be very emotional, but then when I'm resting, I rest in reason.
Elizabeth, that is so exquisite how you said it, and you said it beautifully, and I absolutely love it. I love it, and thank you for explaining it. And it means even more, a deeper meaning when you shared what it means to you. So thank you, and thank you for being a wonderful guest. I've enjoyed this so much, and I want you to come back anytime, if you like, in the future, and we can catch up again. And how can people follow you? Are you on Facebook, Instagram?
Um, I no longer do the Facebook.
Okay.
But I am on Instagram. I'm on Clubhouse and on occasion. Um, but yeah, as far as following my career or any of the work things that I do, I pretty much just use Instagram. And I do have some really exciting things on the horizon coming this year. And so I'm very much looking forward to talking more about that once we're on the other side of it. But I can definitely say that the project that I'm working on now is exactly like what you were saying, just the most phenomenal group of people, the kind of people that you look forward to spending time with, and shooting stuff that just makes you feel good about life. It's excellent writing. Our number one is our writer and director for a few episodes. I cannot say enough nice things about the caliber of talent. It's one of those shows that not a whole lot of action, but the action that's there is very, very funny. And it's just such a pleasure to be a part of. So I'm really looking forward to being able to promote that, as well as a very, very fun feature that I cannot wait. I cannot wait until I'm able to talk about it. We're under major like NDA agreements right now. But I'm so excited to be working with this director again. I literally have not worked with him. I think it's been 18 years since we've
Wow.
worked together.
Wow.
And it's one of those relationships that we got along so well that we were like, "Oh, I can't wait to make another movie with you." And then we, got busy, found success, and now we're finally going to reconnect and make a movie again together. So I'm very excited about that one. And that should be, in a perfect world, we will be filming it over the summer and then expediting the release as quickly as possible to try to get it out by Halloween.
Oh, fabulous. And I'm super thrilled and excited for you. Fingers crossed, both fingers crossed. And isn't it great? I just love, love, love you're going to work with wonderful people. And super happy for you, Elizabeth. And you deserve all the very best because you are such a sweetheart. And I want to tell you how magical you are. You make magic Elizabeth, thank you
happen.
again for being such a wonderful guest. And anything else you want to say before we close the show?
Thank you so much for having me. I I've really enjoyed getting to know you,
Thank you.
um, through the through our clubhouse room, and I never anticipated that we would be able to have this much of an in-depth conversation, and it was just so much fun because
Yeah.
I know that we've kind of we've talked a little bit in the rooms about what we're working on and things that we're doing, but to be able to talk to you directly like this was just so much fun, and I'm just really excited to have to grow our relationship, and I'm super excited for you and the things that you're doing. So I'm just beyond thrilled that I could contribute to that. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank
Me,
you,
if I can help you in
Elizabeth. Any way and support you in any way, I'd love to do that. And thank you again so much for being a spectacular guest. And I'm looking forward to our friendship growing as well. I hope we can collaborate again on some project. And thank you again. You're an absolute exquisite guest. And I just cherish this so, so much and cherish you. So thank you. Thankful and grateful for you. And Elizabeth, until we meet again, until next time.